time for another unboxing because where are all the graphics cards? Welcome to Simple Run. This episode will be an unboxing and kind of a walkthrough of the P200a and its features. I'm actually pretty excited for this case. It's definitely fits into the small form factor, but it's not tiny and it's not massive. So before I get too far, let's just get it out of the box and scope it out. Okay, so first impression, it's actually pretty clean and it's pretty nice. This case was, I think, 65 bucks. Shipping and everything included, it was under 90. It was like $85. So comes with two fans in the front. You've got your side, of course, that got popular with, from what I've seen from like the 011s, they all have that intake or exhaust, however you set it up there. There is no intake or exhaust off the top, which does have me a little concerned, considering your power supply is going to go right here. So that means that all its cold air is actually coming up from your hot components rather than, you know, nice clean air from outside. This one does have the glass window, so it's a DRGB. There's a performance option that is basically similar to the backside. It's just your aluminum, and then it's got basically venting for your graphics card to pull air from outside. Now this does have a completely breathable bottom. So on to the back. Now you can see it's got the regular setup for your I/O, your power supply, and down here be your regular graphics card. Now if you look a little closer, you can see some removable parts. Now this is because it's also set up to go vertical. Now this is one part where I was disappointed with this case. It gives you the back panel for the vertical graphics card, but no riser cable. That kind of seems a really cheap way to do it. Now I understand it's probably cutting costs and most people aren't going to use the vertical, but they should have just a buy option to where you either buy it without the vertical altogether, or you get the riser cable and the back bracket, or just sell the bracket and that, you know, as a side kit. But to include one and not the other is just kind of a slap in the face. Now, the one thing I do like about this case for a small form factor case is it does allow a full ATX power supply. If you're like me and you got the 011 Mini, and then, you know, you can do two SFX power supplies, but you can't do a full ATX. So it's really hit or miss. Now granted, that might not be an issue within the next couple of years as you start to see the SFX power supply become more common and definitely starting to ramp up the wattage of them. My build has a 750, which has been plenty for my 2080 Ti and my 9900 KS. So you run into issues when you start throwing 3090s in there. If you got two 3090s, you're not going to get an SFX power supply to do it. In some cases, you might ramp out and actually max out your full ATX. So I do not like that. Let me pop it on here so you show. I guess once you get used to it, it probably won't be too bad. Now it says pull here, but you don't pull back. Instead you push out, so it just pops out and comes up. What's nice, it is entirely cool or toolless. Super easy, just push it, pop it out. But your old pull here, it's kind of confusing, and it makes me wonder if that's how. So the back has a little notch, and maybe it's the same. Yep. So instead of pull back like you would think, you actually just pop out and it comes up. Now this is sturdy, it's clean, you don't really have much warping in your ventilation. It's got what Phanteks likes to use, which is a small enough perforation that they consider a filter as well. Now in order to utilize this, you have all of these you're going to have to pop out. Now, these are plastic, and those little tabs are only going to pop in and out so many times before they break. Something to be aware of. So you either kind of make up your mind. You either want your ventilation here, or you want the extra capacity for cooling. And then it just pops back in there. I would probably go cooling. So this is kind of a fun case. Turn it around. Now, it does come with 2 fans in the front. They are the DRGBs, and they are 120s. Now, you can fit 2 120s on the front. You can also fit a 240 rad. And you can fit the same on the side if you pop those out. And you can also do a 240 and a 280. So your front ones definitely have more room if you wanted to pop 2 140s in there. It is definitely set up for that. But you can't do 140s on both, and personally I would probably standardize it. So I would do 2 240s, or just 1 280. I don't know that I would go a little both. It's easier just to order one bundle of fans rather than different size fans and go from there. But none of that's really all that important. Now you do have a nice channel for the cables, right? So your power supply is up here. You can run your cables right through here, which is really nice. There is a lot of room. And these guys just unscrew and pop off, so it's not as nice as the 011s where you have a full channel cover. But it may not be necessary. Once you put the side panel on, you're not going to see it. So the whole goal is to keep the cables where they're supposed to be so your panel doesn't bow out. And I think this is probably the simplest, cheapest way to do that while still being able to give it a clean appearance. Now, you have a power button on the top, and then you have all your connections on the front. So you've got 2 USBs, you got a USB-C, you got your headphone jack, and then you've got one for your fan speed and or they're probably both for your DRGB actually. Now if this is like the P200, 400s, this front should just pop off. Yep. And it does. Quite easy. And actually, due to the size, this one's probably the most rigid of the series. Now, the P200a was the highest quality, so it was pretty firm and it was large and had extra creases. The P200a has quite a bit of movement to it. It was cheaper, but still large. And the P200a was again, it was cheaper, so it had a little bit of flex to it. But this one, the mesh is quite sturdy, so they have really got the hang of, whatever they're doing to fabricate these parts. And I really like it. And it gives it a nice quality feel as well. Now, the bottom is all plastic. Phanteks is, they use a lot of plastic parts where they can, so in a lot of cases like this, plastic's fine. It's easy to paint, so it's easy for you to customize. It's cheap for them to manufacture. And it works. Now, however, on this, you do have everything kind of open and out there hanging out. So if you've got this off and you're making changes and adjustments, you're really going to want to be careful with that. Now, I would be interested to see if you could fit these on the outside with this installed. Let's give that a shot, actually. I'm actually rather impressed. So, got the 120 just dangling. Just pop this guy off of here. I actually had some Phanteks 140s sitting around, and they fit on the outside of the chassis, and this can just pop right on there. So I'm not sure if Phanteks actually listen to customers or if they just wanted to go a little further with airflow, but being able to have the 140s on the outside is rather impressive only due to the fact that I had to modify the P200a to get 140s to fit on the outside. I had to cut. And the P200a, which is a massive case, you can't fit those 140s on the outside without cutting either. And they had the horrible little design to where, you know, if you've got them lit up, you still see the lines of the metal because they were inside of the case. P200a, however, has them here. So, cooling wise, this is where I love this case, and I look forward to building it, you know, when graphics cards are a thing you can buy. AMD processors would be nice as well too, but on to the next. So you can actually do your 140s on the outside and a thick 280 rad with another set of 140s on the inside. So that is a lot of cooling for this small. Or you can go, you know, your 140s on the outside, your 280 here, your 240 here with your 120 fans on the back side. And you can still have, you know, the dual rad set up as well. And I think if you got creative, you could probably have one of those radiators with the push and pull and the other with just, you know, one or the other. Now my concern with this case when it comes to cooling is kind of your exhaust, right? So you are taking your hot air out through your power supply, which you don't really like. It may not be an issue, but it's not something I like. Now you can fit a fan here, which looks to be a 120 fan right here. However, if you do have the vertical graphics card, you're no longer putting a fan there. So your exhaust options get a little creative. You're either turning this into an exhaust, which means your air is just kind of coming in like this and out, plus your power supplies, you know, pulling in and out. You could try to exhaust down the bottom, depending on, you know, where your graphics card is, how thick it is, to, you know, whether you can put fans down here or not. So this is small form factor in the fact that you can only put a mini ITX in here. There's no micro ATX, there's definitely no ATX, unless you got creative and you start putting holes in your own pins and stuff like that. But I think that's part of what makes this case so great, is it, you know, they picked their options they wanted and they went around that. So the 011 Mini, which is my favorite case, it is phenomenal. But it was built around, you know, a ton of options. So, you know, your full-fledged ATX will fit and you can do some cool stuff with that. But you can do so much more with the Mini ITX. And those are all options which kind of, you know, move things around to where you probably could have gone to an even higher extent of cooling if you just focused on the Mini ITX, which is what this does. It focuses on the Mini ITX and it builds all the cooling and everything around that. So that really just comes down to, you know, what you want to do with it at that point. So I think that was a pretty solid walkthrough. If you got questions or things I missed, comment down below and, you know, I'll do my best of answering those. Don't forget to subscribe as well. I've got the Inwin B1 video coming and I'm still working on the LSPC, so there's plenty of content in the works that'll be rolling out over the next weeks and months and such. So with that, thank you for watching.